Hi, Kevin. Welcome to the Power Talk Show powered by Business Talks Weekly. Thank you so much for joining our podcast, joining our channel today. Before we dive into a conversation, can you tell me a bit about your professional background and what led to the creation of Next Level University?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you so very much for having me. I appreciate it. I have probably a different professional background than many of the people you talk with. I didn't go to college. I did not plan on being an entrepreneur. I did not plan on being a business owner. I worked at a gas station. I was a truck driver. I was a forklift operator. I was many, many, many things in my past life. And
Wow.
eventually it got to the place where I found podcasting. I fell in love with podcasting. And I said, if I could find a way to do that for a living, if I could find a way to do that full time, if I could be my own boss, that would be the best life ever. So I ended up quitting my job in 2018 and I became a very broke podcaster trying to figure out how to do this. I partnered up with a good friend of mine and then we were kind of off to the races. And today we have a global top 100 podcast with 2000 coming up on 2,200 episodes, and we've been able to turn it into a pretty large business. So it's been an interesting journey over the last 8 years for sure.
That's really interesting. And it's been what? It's been 7 to 8 years that you are into industry right now. I just want to
Yes.
understand what kind of people do you have as guests on your podcast and what kind of topics do you cover?
So we actually stopped having guests probably like 3 or 4 years ago. We had some really big guests in the entrepreneurial space. We had David Meltzer and Evan Carmichael and Dean Graziosi and Chris Harder and Lori Harder, some pretty successful people in the personal development business field. And then we just decided that we kind of wanted to go at our own pace and do it our own way. And now we really talk about peak performance through the lens of personal development. Like, how can you get a little bit better every day when it comes to your health, when it comes to your wealth, when it comes to your life, and when it comes to your love? So we talk about relationships, money, peak performance, productivity, anything that essentially will help you get better in some way. That really is our brand and that's what we're trying to do. And since we do an episode every day, it's a really good companion for somebody who's really obsessed with growth. So that is really the direction we're working towards now.
That's interesting. What really do you offer at Next Level University? Is this some kind of a mentorship, coaching courses that you offer to podcast hosts?
So I would say it's multifaceted at this point. So the podcast is daily mentorship that's completely for free in peak performance and personal development. Within that silo, we have a Facebook group. We have free monthly meetups where we literally do a free Zoom call and we teach on some sort of fundamental principle. We have a free book club. We have free courses. We have a journal that we have that's a paid product. So that's that silo. Then under podcasting, we have a podcast production company where we produce a bunch of podcasts. I coach a bunch of podcasters one on one. I have another podcast about podcasts. So that's the top of that silo. And then at some point, well, right now we have a group coaching program for podcasters as well under that silo. Then my business partner has another podcast about business, and then he kind of has his own model there. So it started out as we want to start a podcast about personal development and self-improvement. We want to help people that are into that. Cool. Eventually, people started asking me for podcast help. And then my business partner, Alan, is a really high-level business coach. So it just worked out in very weird ways. But essentially, everything we offer is mentorship or coaching or products. We don't do ads. We don't do sponsorships. We don't do affiliates. That's not the way we've grown our business. If we're not adding value to you, then it's most likely not in our business model.
That's wonderful. And the amount of podcasts and episodes and channels that you're running is brilliant. I have a question I want to understand. There's been a lot of rumors that if you come to 5 or 6 episodes and if you stop publishing, your podcast or your channel will die. What are the certain myths that you would like to burst today and also share certain best practices that podcast hosts can actually consider and take it into action?
Yeah, the number one myth is that everybody should have a podcast. As a podcast coach and somebody who has a pretty large podcast production company, I'm telling you that is not true. There are certain people I've done calls with who I've said, look, a podcast is not going to do what you think it's going to do. It's not for you. It doesn't print money. It doesn't guarantee leads. It doesn't guarantee demand. It's a really good opportunity to create long form content and build a relationship with an audience, but there's a lot more work that goes into it than I think people realize. That's one. Two, most of us, like the vast majority of us, are not going to go the ad sponsorship affiliate route. That's not the way we're going to win. We're going to win by adding value to our audience and then adding deeper value to our audience in exchange for some form of payment. That is just, most of us are not going to get to the space where we're having 100 million downloads a month. It's very hard to get there. It's way easier to use your podcast as an opportunity to connect with an audience. That's a big one. Another common one now is the only way to win in podcasting is to have guest episodes. I know a lot of people, ourselves included, who are doing really well with solo style episodes. That's another piece. And then I think the last thing, just touching on what you started the question with, if you're not going to do it for at least 2 years, like if you're not going to say, all right, I'm going to do 104 episodes, I'm going to do every single week for the next 2 years, you don't really know what you're capable of. We didn't make money for the first year or two. Most people don't make money relatively quickly. It's like any other startup. In the beginning, you're just figuring it out. You're building an audience, right? It most likely will take you longer than you realize to make money, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't have a monetization strategy when you start, at least.
Absolutely makes sense. And Kevin, what's your take on who to bring in as guest and what episodes to publish? I'll just give you a reference. In my case, there are certain guests and certain episodes that I don't publish. I don't make it live because I feel like it doesn't add value to my audience. Do you share the same concept? And is that the long way that we should be looking at?
Somebody in our group coaching program literally asked this question a couple days ago. They said, I just did an interview with somebody and it didn't come out the way I wanted it to come out, and I don't think I should release the episode. What do I do? And I messaged back in the group and I said, at the end of the day, this is your audience and it is your responsibility to make sure that your content is as valuable as possible. If it's not a fit, just message them and let them know that. Yeah, I am somebody who I believe in quality over quantity. I feel like if you're just checking the box to get an episode out, it's probably not going to do what you think. Make sure the guest has some sort of expertise, some sort of story, or some sort of through line that connects to your audience, but make sure they know who your audience is and make sure they know who they're talking to, and make sure they're there to add value, not to sell their stuff. A lot of people think podcasting is the way to sell your book or sell your course, whatever. Yeah. And sure, you can do that, but your guests have to be there to add value first. Everything else is secondary and everything else it comes after. It doesn't work without adding value. So as long as you feel like they're adding value to the audience, I'm willing to bet that they're going to be a pretty good guest, but that depends on your understanding of your audience, right? That is one of the most important things. And I'll go back to the question you asked previously. As a podcast host, one of the things that is a common misunderstanding is, well, I'm just going to grow, it'll just happen. You need to know exactly who your audience is and the type of content that they like, because it's your job to produce that type of content.
Absolutely makes sense. You have been into this business for such a long period, Kevin. What shift have you seen in how the technology part and even the podcasting and the post-production part has evolved? And where do you see the future stand at?
Yeah, obviously AI has made a world of difference with a lot of things, right? So there's a lot of places where you can just throw a full episode, it'll break it into clips for you, it'll give you the transcript, it'll give you the title, it'll give you a blog post, all of that stuff. I think we are going to get to the place in the very near future where that is not nearly as valuable as people think it's going to be, because humans are better at creating content than AI is. We see it with ChatGPT titles. We see it all the time. So the podcasting space and the content creation space has been democratized, meaning anybody can do it. At this point, anybody can throw their podcast up on their phone, get on Riverside, get on StreamYard. This part is democratized. But the people who are talented when it comes to asking questions, the people who are talented when it comes to doing research, titling episodes, choosing good clips, I'm convinced those people are going to continue to win. So it is changed by the barrier of entry getting much lower. But that also means that people who have higher skills are going to continue to be successful and probably more successful. So my advice that I would attach to that is use AI as a trampoline, not as a crutch. Use AI to help you jump higher, but it can't be the only reason you jump, because if it is, there is no differentiator. Everybody has access, if you have the circumstances, to ChatGPT. Anybody who's willing to pay $20 a month has a different access. Outside of that, yeah, you can ask questions differently, but you have to have a skill set. So I think in the beginning, everybody was really focused on developing skills. Now people are unfortunately less focused on developing skills. And I think in 5 years, you're going to see who stayed focused on developing skills and who didn't.
Absolutely, 100% on that. Kevin, coming on to next level university, what is your vision? What do you envision for the next 3, 5 years? What is your growth strategy?
The ultimate vision is to have the most successful personal development company in the world. I mean, that's what we're aspiring to. We want to help as many people as humanly possible and more people than anybody else has. I would say in the next 3 to 5 years, we're probably going to lean more into creating technology. So everybody on our team tracks habits, and we have a lot of data on ourselves and how our team operates with certain habits and certain times of the year and under certain levels of stress and overwhelm and all that stuff. The reason we're doing that is because we want to be able to create some of the best habit tracking and people understanding technology that we can create. So in the next 3 to 5 years, I'm sure that's probably something that we're going to push out. In the next 3 to 5 years, I'll have at least one podcast book. So I'm going to have a book on podcasting. I'm sure my business partner will have his book on business. So I think in the next 3 to 5 years, we will spread out more. Right now, we are very specific with everything that we do, trying to create the biggest, deepest foundation possible. In the next 3 to 5 years, I think we'll be able to branch out. Outside of that, though, our growth strategy is to do the same thing every single day and just get a little bit better. I mean, that is it. I'm not going to go viral. I'm not trying to go viral. I am trying to be really, really, really good at just a few things and trust that when I do get the opportunity that talent that I'm trying to create brings, I'll be able to handle it. That really is our growth strategy. I know a lot of people, they're looking for other stuff. They're looking for shortcuts or different paths. For us, that is just what has worked the best, right? I'm convinced that if we just do more episodes and create more content and do more coaching calls and learn more, eventually things will continue to compound to the point where we'll be as successful as we had imagined and we'll have the impact that we imagined. So yeah, it's an unsexy answer, but I'm just going to try to do the same thing every day, just a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. And that's really all we've done over the last 8 years. And if I go and look back at an episode that we made 5 years ago compared today, it is terrible. I mean, it is almost unlistenable. That is a suggestion that the compound effect is really taking path, and it's creating the momentum that we are trying to build. That's a big word in our business, momentum.
Absolutely. And as we are on it, Kevin, do you think the industry, the podcasting space is currently cluttered and saturated?
No, that's a common thing, and that's a common question. A lot of people think, there's been millions of podcasts created. There's no space for you. As you alluded to, the attrition rate, how many podcasts actually survive, is relatively low. So I think as of today, in this moment, there's only like 450,000 podcasts that are current and rolling. That's not that many in the grand scheme of things. I mean, if we think of like some of the biggest stadiums on earth, that's like 4.5 of those stadiums. It's not that many people in the grand scheme of things. So no, I don't think it's oversaturated. I don't think there is an opportunity. I think what a lot of people have is they have misaligned expectations, and they think, okay, I'll just start this and it'll work. It's not the way it happens. Or I think the time perspective is off. Well, I'll just do it for like a month or 2 months and then I should start to see some growth. You got to commit to a year, 2 years minimum. We have a client who came to me and he said, I want to sign up. And he said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to guarantee that I do this for at least 2 years and then I'll reevaluate. Great mindset to have. I know 2 years is a long time, but you don't start a relationship with someone saying, well, I'll give it a week, and then if things aren't perfect, it's not going to work. You'd be single for the rest of your life if you did it that way. So there has to be some commitment, and I think that's a big piece of it. It's not that it's saturated; it's that it's so easy to get into, and the commitment is just doesn't have to be that high to do it.
One final question, Kevin. As you have worn so many hats, from in your earlier stages of life, what piece of advice you received that changed your perspective towards business as well as towards your personal life?
I would say it's the growth strategy that I alluded to earlier, that you just have to get a little bit better today than you were yesterday. I know it probably seems silly, it probably seems like terrible advice, but I'm going to do 3 or 4 podcast episodes today. I'll do another 3 or 4 podcast episodes tomorrow, and I will not feel any better about my ability as a podcaster. But if I do that every day for the next 5 years, I will look back and say, "Oh my goodness, I was terrible." And that can happen forever. You can just do that forever with certain things, right? So, yeah, it's from day to day, progress is invisible. From year to year, progress is impossible to miss. That is really one of the fundamental principles that we live by. I don't expect to be in any better shape today than I was yesterday. If I look back 6 months, I should see a difference. If I look back a year, I should see a difference. It's really that. It's just play the long game, stay committed, and practice the right habits. And you're already setting yourself apart from like 99% of people. It's just a matter of time if you do that long enough.
That's great. That's a wonderful piece of advice. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you so much for giving us time today and joining our channel. It was a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, my friend. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.